Hi guys, and welcome to the Lifechurch Manchester podcast. We're continuing our new series entitled Money, Servant or Master. This week it's Alastair Cutteridge with his talk entitled How to View It and How to Use It.
So, who can see what I've got here? A £20 note. That's great. I had to go and get it out of the safe. I had no notes in my wallet this morning. But if I was to give it to Emeka, whose is it now? It's yours. He's put it in his pocket. There's no danger of and that's fine. And if I gave it to you, you could do with it what you wanted. But if I give it to you, and I say, tell me next week what you're going to do, what you've done with it, do you think that would change his perspective on what he did? Yeah. The correct answer is yes. Well done. Thank you. And I'm going to have it back. How we see something changes how we treat it or how we use it. Last week we started a series of talks called Money, Servant or Master. And Derek helped us to think about our relationship with money and how big an issue it can be for us sometimes. He reminded us that actually Jesus talked about money more than anything else because Jesus knew the danger. He knew that it can dominate us, it can control us, so that instead of money being something that we can use for good, it can be the other way around and it can feel like money is using us. And it can get in the way of our relationship with God and how we trust God. So we're continuing to think about that today, and our topic is ownership or stewardship. The question is what we have actually ours? In Psalm 24, it says this: "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. That's a profound truth. Everything in the world is God's because God created it and it's still his. So when we think about anything, and money is our focus in this series, of course, but we need to remember that money is ultimately God's. And that should have an impact on how we think about it. So perhaps our language needs to change in line with our thinking. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about my money or our money. Maybe we should be talking about God's money entrusted to me. Because we are stewards of what is God's. There's a moment in Jesus' life where this idea comes alive, not through a rich person, but through a child. We've seen the story today, really well represented by our friends from the Baltic School of Ministry, which is in Latvia. Did you know that, Ife? But let's just recap the story. Jesus had become famous because he was performing miracles and healings, and a large crowd gathered to see him. Perhaps they were hoping to see a miracle for themselves. But they all turned up without food, and Jesus turned to his closest followers and friends, the disciples, and asks, what are they going to do about this problem? The disciples' solution is to send all the people away to find food, but Jesus says for them to feed them. Imagine how you would feel as a disciple in that situation. Philip highlights something about what the cost would be, more than half a year's wages. If you had to go and buy a meal deal today for 5,000 people, that would cost you over £20,000. And I'm not sure Tesco has got 5,000 meal deals in this morning. It's a big, big problem. Let's pick up the story in John's Gospel. That's the story that John wrote of Jesus' life. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will that go among so many?" Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaf, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they'd all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So a boy appears, just with his lunch. But let's just think about that. It's small, it's enough for a boy alone. It's not enough. In fact, when related to the problem, it's absolutely insignificant. But, and this is a big but, the miracle doesn't start with abundance, it starts with a small offering. Jesus takes the little that the boy has, gives thanks to God, and multiplies it. The result is everyone eats, and there's food left over. This is an absolutely amazing miracle. Sometimes with stories that are very familiar to us, we can forget how monumental they are. And this, I think, is one of those stories. I don't know how many people are in the room today, somewhere between 150 and 200 perhaps. Jesus fed over 25 times that number of people just with a boy's fish sandwich. That's truly extraordinary. But I just want our focus this morning to be on what the boy did. 3 quick thoughts about that. Firstly, it wasn't much, but it mattered. As I've said, the miracle didn't start in Jesus' hands. It started in a boy's willingness to let go of what he had. I'm not sure what the boy would be thinking of when the disciples came and took his lunch away for them. But he was willing to let go of it when he didn't have much. And that's what initiated the miracle. Perhaps sometimes we can get caught up with thinking, well, when we have a bit more money, we can give some away. We can perhaps give it to church or to a charity or to someone that we see in need. But it will just be when we have a bit more. This story turns that round. The boy had little, but he gave it all away. It reminds us of the story when Jesus commends an old widow in the temple for her very small gift. But again, it was all he had, all she had, and she gave it. So it wasn't much, but it really mattered. Second, the boy did have a choice. There's no sense in which he was forced into giving up his lunch. He could have kept hold of it. No one would have blamed him for that, for it was his. And no one could imagine that actually it would make any difference to this massive problem that was in front of them. He, or perhaps his mum, had been more sensible than everyone else. He'd brought food with him. Why hadn't the rest of them? Some people are good at planning and thinking ahead and are sensible with money and everything that they have. But sometimes those are the people that are called to share what they have, even if that might seem unfair. We might be tempted to say, I've saved this up. Why should I have to share it with people who didn't save and plan? But being a good steward of what God has given us means sometimes we have to make a choice for the sake of others. Third point, what we keep stays small. What we offer, God can multiply. This is the heart of today. What we hold on to remains limited just to us to use. The boy could have sat down and been fed and he'd have been quite happy and he wouldn't have missed out. But he and everyone else missed out on seeing and experiencing the goodness and power of God. What he released became available to God, and God can do so much with so little from a generous heart. This is a story of bread and fish, but the application is for everything that we've been given by God. That includes our money, but it's our time, it's our opportunities, it's our possessions, it's our gifts, it's our abilities. The question we have to ask ourselves today is, do I see this as mine, or do I see this entrusted to me to use for good? Is the money I have mine to use as I see fit? Perhaps after I've given some to the church and supported one or two other good causes. Or do I see it as being entrusted to me by God, and he wants to see what I'll do with it? Will I use it for good, or will I waste it? It's the same for our time. There are 86,400 seconds in a day, but what will you do with them? I suspect you'll probably sleep with some, but after that, every second is a gift to be used. What are you going to do with it? Here's the £20 notes again. If I hold it like this, with a closed fist, that seems to show that I control it. I own it. It also says I'm afraid of losing it. But when I open it, hold it with an open hand, it seems to say something else. It speaks of trust. It shows that perhaps the money is available to the first one to run up and grab it. I thought someone might respond to that. Not quick enough. It even hints perhaps that there's a sense of surrender with this. The boy didn't have much, but he had open hands. He trusted what Jesus would do, that what he gave would be used for good. The boy surrendered to what Jesus wanted to do. Are your hands open or closed? About money, about all the things that God has given to you. It's very easy to talk about my money or our money. Mel and I are doing the marriage course at the moment, and that's caused us to talk about money amongst other things. And I've always thought that we were doing well in one area to do with our finances. We've always had joint bank accounts. We've not had my account and Mel's account. It's always been joint. And so we talk about our money together. But as I've been preparing for today, I've realized that that language just isn't helpful. What we have is the money God has entrusted to us. One of my challenges for you is to try and think about that language for yourselves this week. If you find yourself saying my money or our money, tell yourself to think again. Remember, it's God's money entrusted to you. It's quite a big perspective change, perhaps, that we need to make. That perhaps making one small step might help you do that. Here's some ideas. You could review your spending. Where is the money God has entrusted to you going? You might make one conscious decision to give some away, even just a small amount, to do something that you haven't done before. You might delay or review a purchase that you've got planned. Or you might want to talk to someone about your money, an honest conversation. Here's a question. How would you feel about showing someone where all your money is spent? Would that be comfortable? Or are there some areas of your spending that actually you'd be embarrassed about? Is it open or is it closed? Back to the story, the miracle didn't start with what Jesus had. It started with what the boy released. What are you holding on to? What might God be asking you to trust him with? You may feel that what you have isn't much, but in God's hand, it's significant. If the band and the choir want to make their way back onto the stage, we're going to sing again in a minute, but just want to give you a moment for reflection. Where have you been living like an owner instead of a steward? Where have you been living like an owner? Where have you been treating money as something that is totally yours, not something to use for God? And is there one step you can take so that your hands are less closed and more open? Just take a minute. Just close your eyes. Just let God speak in this moment. Lord, thank you for all the things, including our money, that you have entrusted to us. Help us to look after it and to use it all well. Help us to live with open hands, not closed hands. And Lord, for those that you've been speaking to about taking one step this week, Lord, I pray that you would help them to do that. And as they do that, you would be changing their heart. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
If you like what you've heard and if you want to hear more, then please subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and please give us a 5-star rating. It does wonders in helping people to find the podcast. And if you'd like to see more from us, you can go to YouTube and find us at Lifechurch Manchester. Have a fantastic week, guys. God bless you all.